Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Southern Vermont Economic Project Knowledge Bites webinar series. This is session 10, and we have Laura Sibilia and formerly Kristin Mihalik, now Kristin Brooks, both of BDCC and CEDS, and they are here to tell us about how to submit a project to the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy process. So the goal of this webinar series is to provide a high-level introduction to economic and workforce development programs, resources, and tools. So at the end of each session, there will be information on where participants can get more in-depth assistance with this specific resource. So the structure of the webinars, 20 minutes presentation by Laura and Kristin, and then there will be 10 minutes of question and answer. I have all the participants muted, so when you have a question, feel free to just type it into the chat function, and then Laura and/or Kristin will be addressing those. And also, just so you know, these sessions are recorded. This website down here is where they're archived, so if you know of someone that wanted to attend but couldn't, please just give them that address, that web address, and they can watch this at a later date. So let's get started. I'm going to switch presenters here. Give me one moment. All right, Kristin, you there?
Yes.
Wonderful. You are on.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Laura Sibilia, and I am the Director of Regional Economic Development Strategies and Programs for the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, founding member of the CEDS board, and now my primary role is staffing that effort.
I'm Kristin Brooks. I am the Cooperative Internship Coordinator at the BDCC. I run the internship program here in the Windham region for Windham region businesses, currently enrolled college students, and recent graduates. And also I was a former CEDS project manager who over the last 2 years has overseen the CEDS project submission process. So I'm filling in and giving a little bit more information with Laura. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Laura will start, and then I'll follow up with some later slides.
Okay, so the first bit that we want to get after here is what exactly is a CEDS. These are CEDS. This session is about CEDS projects. So what is a CEDS? And that is a comprehensive economic development strategy. That is done, it's a federally prescribed process that is done in a region. Most often it is done across multiple counties, looking at the economy, the population, geography, workforce development, transportation, resources, the environment, and looking at how will we grow that economy in a way that is thoughtful, what data is needed, etc. So next slide. The CEDS that we are currently working off of, CEDS is a 5-year plan. The current Windham region CEDS was finished in 2014. It's comprehensive of a 27-town region, which encompasses a few more towns than just Windham County. It's all of the towns that the service area for both the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation and the Windham Region Commission cover. So that CEDS that was finished in 2014 through a public grassroots process, looking at data, talking about goals, looking at the assets that we had in the region that were leverageable, came up with 6 high-level objectives. And within each one of those objectives, we have a number of strategies and action plans that are spelled out. So the objectives from the 2014 CEDS were to act regionally, particularly important in rural areas, to create an entrepreneurial environment and culture, to enhance existing businesses and grow new businesses, to improve the wage parity with the surrounding labor shed. Our data showed that in 2014, the same position in Windham County paid significantly less than having that position in Franklin County, Mass, or Cheshire County, New Hampshire. Objective 4 is to increase the size and quality of the workforce. And this really relates to what we have seen for our employers who are struggling and have been struggling to maintain an appropriate sized workforce for the work that they're doing now, and also to contemplate growth. We have a highly educated population in Windham County, higher than average, but there is in Windham County and throughout much of Vermont a mismatch in the skills that the residents have, the workforce has, and that employers need. So both increasing the size and the quality of the workforce, pretty significant objective. We are also looking to retain and attract younger talent through engagement linkages, lifestyle amenities, and meaningful career opportunities. This predominantly takes place through our young professionals efforts, which we continue to look to expand and grow. And objective 6 is to develop immediate VY-specific workforce and site impact mitigation strategies prior to the 2014 closure of the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. This comes directly from a CEDS task force that was established as the CEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, was being created. And that task force looked to see what additional impacts, what additional efforts would be needed to grow the regional economy, which had been in a long, slow decline, when Vermont Yankee shut down. And so there was a whole report that was produced. That effort was chaired by former Speaker of the House, Stephen Morse, and there were a number of strategies in part in that report, and we've embedded that whole report in the CEDS. So that is objective 6. Okay. So we've got this plan. We've got this regional plan for growing the economy. We've set out some goals. As I explained earlier, with each one of those objectives, we have action items, different projects, different data collections, different collaborations that are highlighted to move the needle on those objectives. There's an additional piece to the CEDS, and that is projects, which is what we're talking about today. Projects are submitted, and the value of submitting your project for consideration in the CEDS, for inclusion in the CEDS, remembering that this process is a federally prescribed process. Submitting your project says to federal agencies that you are aware of the planning process, the 5-year planning process that has happened in the region to grow the economy, and that your project, you see the alignment with your project and growing the region's economy. I don't think we have seen a project come in where there was not some means of aligning with the region's plan for growth. So it's a criteria for a number of federal funding opportunities to find out if your region has a CEDS. Your project being included in it is to your advantage with a number of those federal funding opportunities. This ends up being why most regions will do a CEDS, is for federal funding. And it also ends up being a reason why a lot of times those CEDS will not be implemented, because they're simply done to access additional funding. This CEDS is worked. It is implemented. We actually have received an international award for implementation of this overall CEDS. And so the projects that are included here, we really pay attention to them. And our federal partners know that our CEDS is being implemented, and so they do as well. The projects that are included serve another purpose in the Wyndham region, and that is really helping to grow the understanding throughout the state and the region about what our partners are working on. In rural areas in particular, we can tend to be kind of siloed and isolated. And so having this collaboration, sharing this knowledge about what we are trying to achieve, who possible partners might be, what are possible funding opportunities for those who are looking to invest in the region. We think that's very important. We conduct this process on an annual basis. Projects that have been submitted, we will continue to include as long as they provide an update in terms of the progress that is being made on their project. And so have I covered? I'm going to now turn it over to, what's that?
Do you want to talk about Bennington?
Yes. So this is actually the final year that we will be doing the projects soliciting projects for Wyndham region only. We have, through the establishment of the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone, which includes both Wyndham and Bennington County, we've been encouraged by our federal partners to deepen existing collaborations with Bennington County and consider developing a two-county CEDS. And both Bennington County, their Regional Economic Development Strategies Group, as well as CEDS, the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies Group, had agreed to move in that direction. We have recently been notified by the EDA that we have been granted planning funds to develop that two-county CEDS, the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone CEDS. That process will begin really probably in a public way later this spring. The boards themselves are beginning to contemplate data, and we will be, for the 2019 Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone CEDS, conducting a whole new CEDS projects process, and we'll be looking forward to adding projects for Wyndham and Bennington County. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristin, who will talk about the nuts and bolts of how to submit and when.
Great, thanks, Laura. So as Laura mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, how the process works. So we are, as Laura mentioned, we will be accepting projects for the 2017-2018 period. So we, as Laura said, this is an annual process. We typically get around 50 projects submitted each and every year. Those projects are submitted, then they are reviewed and ranked by a selection of project review committee members. They're reviewed, ranked, and then anywhere from the top 10 to 14 projects are ranked the most vital. So in relation to how do they relate to our CEDS, are they increasing the size and quality of the workforce? Are they adding more jobs? Are they paying above the minimum wage? Are all things that the review committee looks at when scoring as well as ranking these projects. So this is just a brief overview of the process. As I mentioned, projects are submitted, then they're reviewed and ranked, and then we actually have a final press event releasing the project's ranking that we host. So let's talk a little bit about the review committee. For the 2017-2018 project review committee, we have individuals throughout both Wyndham County and Bennington County. We're doing this because we want our partners in Bennington to be familiar with the process that we're about to do as part of the new Southern Vermont CEDS. So we choose BDCC and CEDS solicit individuals to make up this review committee. BDCC and CEDS are not on the committee. as we want this committee to be diverse in geography as well as industry-wide. So again, these individuals will be reviewing and ranking all of these projects that are submitted. So next is, how do you submit a project and what does that look like? So we had a formal press release that went out last month or the month before, releasing the project submission and the process. So for individuals who are submitting a new project, they would be filling out an online form. And basically, the online project submission form talks about, what is your project, who is submitting it. Tell us a little bit more about the project. Talk about the resources. Tell us what are the goals and objectives of your project. What are the outcomes? What are you hoping to achieve with this? Are you projecting to build regional capacity? What are some other benefits in relation to our CEDS objectives that Laura discussed before? Is your project looking to achieve? So there are about 7 to 10 questions on the new project submission form. There's also a link to our CEDS document, so you can go in and read the large CEDS report prior to submitting your project. And we also include at the top of the submission page, we also include a link to the scoring criteria. And it shows you directly how your project will be scored from the review committee. So you'll get points based on, again, how well does the project that you are submitting relate to our region CEDS. So it goes back to the objectives, tying back into those objectives that Laura had mentioned previously. So, is your project regional? Are you increasing the size and quality of our workforce? Are you paying livable wage? Are you leveraging external assets? What is the quality of place? So those are just some of the things that your project will be scored and reviewed on. So that's the new project submission. And as Laura had mentioned, again, this is our fourth year accepting projects from the Wyndham region to be included in the CEDS. And so projects and organizations and businesses who have submitted in previous years actually just provide an update on their project. And that form is about 3 questions. It's also through the online portal and question there just telling us, give us an update. What has changed in the last year? What has been the development in your project? So those projects and project updates are also reviewed and ranked by the committee. So with that, what does the timeline look like? So as I mentioned, the project submission period opened last month, and it will be open until February 19th, 2018. Proposals are due on the 19th of February by 5 p.m. And once we receive all those proposals, they will then go to the project review committee where they will have several weeks to review, and then we'll be meeting to rank these projects. So that review and ranking period is open from mid-February to the middle of April. And we, again, will be releasing these projects to the public at our Southern Vermont Economic Development Summit at the end of May. So that'll be happening on May 30th. So that's a little bit about the CEDS itself, as well as the CEDS project process. It's pretty straightforward. Again, it's all submitted through the online portal, ranked and reviewed by a committee. So I guess what we'll do now is, if you have any questions, you can feel free to type them in the box or ask Laura and I. For any other specific inquiries, questions, clarifications, feel free to reach out to Sarah in regards to the project. But again, all of our project submission forms, new project submission forms, as well as project updates can be found on the BDCC website. So I guess now we'll just take some questions and comments if anyone has them.
Great, thanks Laura and thanks Kristin. If anyone has questions, like Kristin said, go ahead and type it into the chat function. and they will go ahead and answer that. I suppose while people are thinking, I'll ask a question. If I wanted to submit a project, how do I know if my project fits sort of under the CEDS? Is there certain projects that you guys look for in the submission? What's sort of the range of projects that you guys have gotten in the past?
I think that's a great question, Sarah, and something that maybe Laura and I can reiterate. But one of the things to consider when submitting your project is all projects that are submitted to be included are included. So we don't take any projects away. We don't say that they're not included. All projects submitted are automatically included in the CEDS. And so that's why we have that review and ranking period from a diverse group of individuals throughout the region, because they are then reviewing the project and saying, how does this align with the CEDS and CEDS and the goals and objectives that are in the CEDS? And if they don't, then that project will be scored lower. And then that is why we have the ranking project as well as the ranking of those vital projects. Yeah.
And so we can see that there, we have a question about examples of projects. And we have, first of all, BDCC and CEDS ourselves always put projects in. We think the value of that is, again, letting the region know what we're doing, what we're thinking about, what we see as opportunities. We can talk about some projects that have been included in the past. So, for instance, Mount Snow, their Westlake project, which is one which has significant EB5 investment coming in. That is a project that has been submitted and included in the CEDS. The Retreat Farm, which is along Route 30, they're looking to do major improvements there. That has been a project that has been included.
Yep. As well as others include the NECA expansion. That project was submitted when we first did our CEDS in 2014. So that was, to develop their expansion from a cotton mill here in Brattleboro to a new facility, which they have provided a new update each and every year, and happy to report that they have facilitated an expansion. Others include the Wilmington Old School, the redevelopment of the old high school in Wilmington. We actually held our press event there last year where we went into the old school. We had numerous project submitters attend.
We've had
Southern Vermont marketing.
Southern Vermont marketing project, which was a project that was done, an original Windham and Bennington County project that was done as part of disaster recovery. That continues to be included, and steps continue to be made to implement that. That's a project that is in there. We have seen the expansion of utilities to the Exit 1 industrial park in Brattleboro as a project, which
Jacksonville, the expansion of water and sewer. Right. So really wide variety of kind of category. Yeah. So really not restrictive by any means there.
Is there a place that people can see the whole list of projects that have been submitted?
Absolutely. So if you go back to the second slide, on this second slide, Sarah, actually, are you able to see the screen when I bring up a new browser?
Yep.
Okay, great. So on the BDCC website, under our CEDS and CEDS projects, if you scroll down, here's a copy of our CEDS. We answer some questions in regard to CEDS and the project. You'll actually see all of our materials and project documents. So, for example, you can see last year's press release of all of the projects, and I think this kind of is a great segue into RT's question in regards to if there's a type of certificate or documentation that a project submitter receives once submitting their project.
So you're included. This is we released this list in a public fashion. This list are the top vital projects. As Kristin said, we include all projects in the CEDS. They are all ranked, and every year we have somewhere between 10 and 14 projects that are deemed to be vital or really the most closely aligned and important to implement with regard to the CEDS. And so those projects are included in this list, the vital projects list. And we also have this list. This is where we break them down by category.
Correct.
Yes. So there is you don't receive funding for being named a vital project, but you do receive an indication that the group that has assembled, that is aware of what we're trying to achieve with the CEDS, has seen that your project is really one of the most closely aligned projects. So what? As we said, our CEDS is implemented. The folks regionally, state, and federally understand that, and so projects that are listed as vital projects, that's important. And we know that project submitters on that list have leveraged that in their funding applications, have noted that their project is included and that it's made this list. So anything else on that?
Any other questions that we can answer? And do we get to your question? Just to kind of reiterate RT's question about receiving some sort of certificate or formal notification. Again, we have that press event that happens at the end of the project review and ranking period where, we have specific handouts for individuals, and we have a lengthy press event informing members and project submitters of the ranking. Any other questions or anything else that we can help answer? And again, if you have any other questions, feel free. You can reach out to myself, Laura, Sarah.
Yeah. I would just say this process is really, over time, this process is really, it's really kind of cool to watch, particularly projects that continue to support updates to see the progress. Because as we know, the economy does not improve or deteriorate overnight. It's really systemic issues and effort over time that help move things. And so the projects are a really exciting way of visualizing that. So.
Absolutely. And again, I'll just reiterate, anyone, any organization, business who are doing projects, these are people who are implementing the projects, not necessarily we'll call them somebody ought a project, somebody should be doing this or should be doing that. These are real projects that are happening, that are being developed, and in the process of being implemented.
One last thing that I think we should probably mention, that I think our boss would want us to mention, which is BDCC always wants to know about projects that are going on in the region. We have a number of human assets as well as technical assets and the ability to help connect to some limited financial assets. So our knowledge that projects are happening we think is helpful to your project. There may be some assistance, either human, technical, or connecting you with financial resources that could be helpful in implementing your project. So yet another reason. Yep. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. And like Kristin said, if there are any questions that come up after this, feel free to contact me, Laura, or Kristin with those questions. I'm going to go ahead and take over, and just a few more pieces of information. So, like I said, these happen twice a month. This specific session was sort of out of the normal scheduling, but we felt it was very important for people to sort of understand that process and how they can get involved. But our upcoming sessions, we have one on November 14th, so a week from today. We'll have Fred Kenny from Vermont Economic Progress Council, and he will be talking about the VEGI program, the Vermont Employment Growth Incentive Program, and that'll be for businesses who are contemplating the investment in new payroll, as well as other types of businesses. And then we'll have another one on November 28th. John Young will be with us of the Vermont Training Program, and he will be discussing the Vermont Training Program. Again, these sessions are archived at the address you see below. We're always open to suggestions too. If there are programs or resources that you want to know more about, please contact me and I can reach out to whoever runs that program or is knowledgeable about that resource and get them onto this webinar. So thank you guys very much, Kristin and Laura, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.